The following program is rated TV MAL. It contains strong language and is intended only for mature audiences.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rafael Chacín. This is your captain speaking, El Capitán Rafucho, and welcome everybody to a special preview of the UFC Fight Night, and of course, the most important fight of the weekend, which is Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. Because for all the UFC, the MMA fans, the boxing fans like me, they are really, really excited about the UFC every Saturday. And of course, for the boxing fans, they have the most important match that we're talking about it in for a lesson of this decade. Because remember, guys, between Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor back in 2017, but right now they got Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz on Texas, which is it's gonna be like really amazing. But I'm not alone because I have two of the amazing guests right now because they have an independent YouTube channel, and I'm very proud to be like I'm such a fan of those contests right now because every time that I just watching at the watch party with the UFC fight nights and of course for the pay-per-views, those guys are really, really amazing. So I had the privilege to have introduce you guys two of the group, two of the most independent MMA YouTube channel of all the time. So I just wanted to say that about it. So right now, here it is, ladies and gentlemen, from the Against the Fence. So right now we got JK and Ash. Welcome everybody. Welcome.
What's up? Thank you for having us. What's good, yo?
Thank you for the lovely intro that you just did there. That was amazing. Thank you, sir. It's a privilege to be on.
Indeed.
Yep, right now. So right now, let's talk about the fight night between Corey Sandhagen versus Rob Font. And it's gonna be on Nashville because they're not getting shy from a fight because Corey Sandhagen has been logged to it like the future world champion by fans. But the Colorado native has been falling short 3 times against former or future UFC championship. Because after exploring like the scene for the highlight reel knockouts, he has been sent to more complex puzzles over the long haul with the decision over Marlon Vera and around for Dr. Stoppage again, Son Jandong. But Sanga has done the most to pay what to fund, following like an injury suffered with his original opponent, Umar Nurmagomedov. Because they're talking about the principle, the same confused and overload opponents. So he was saying that he was making to people process that at the speed that's really, really exhausted. And for the down with the road to the falls after the losses between Jose Aldo and Chito Vera, they're particularly with Font suffering 3 takedowns because a 1 year layup was exactly the recalibration period that he needed. And Font, he was welcoming a fellow Sabbath Adrian Janes into the band one tail lead with starting in 1 round. It was like at the start of the performance with a highly touted prospect like a veteran like Font needed. Defeating Sandhagen, especially out like at the short notice, it's not very easy, but the victory put him on the close as ever to the win of the UFC title and a career spanning 12 years. So right now, let's get started with JK and Ash between the preview of Corey Sandhagen versus Font. So there you go.
Do you want to start, JK, or do you want me to start?
Oh, you can start. Yeah, crack on. Get what you want.
Yeah, just going to say, disappointing, obviously, Nurmagomedov couldn't make it. Obviously, that would have been such a great fight. But Rob Font, fair play to him stepping in. Again, he had a great fight against Adrian Yanez, as you just said. I think taking that layoff, taking that time he needed, because he did take a bit of a beating against Chito Vera, taking that time off to sort of rejuvenate himself. And we saw him come back against Adrian Yanez. His jab is like money. Is he going to be able to get that jab off against the always moving Corey Sandhagen? I don't know. But Corey Sandhagen, as I just mentioned, the movement is going to pay dividends in this fight for me. I think he's just going to be too quick, too fast for Rob Font. And yeah, I just think he's just going to be too quick and too elusive.
Yeah, I agree as well. And you know I've been watching some of Sandhagen's instructionals on his YouTube channel at the moment, and they're pretty good. I mean, you should definitely check them out. And it's just the way that he kind of sets up his strikes is very interesting. He's always looking at his opponent's movements and the way they kind of react to his initial exchange. And that's when he then realizes and knows what strike to then throw next. And I think it's very, very smart of him. He's been dubbed the next Dominic Cruz a few times in the past, and he does kind of look that way with his intelligence. I've quite hopeful of Corey Sandhagen in this one. It's going to be interesting because he would have been preparing for a wrestler.
Yes.
And now he's going to be preparing for an elite striker or elite boxer in Rob Font. So it's going to be quite intriguing. Let's not forget that also it's going to be a catchweight as well. So at 140. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to go down, but I'm not quite sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, I mean, of both fighters, they have a lot of intensity, but I think the athleticity, it's tremendously right. And of course, I would love to teach you that about it. So right now, after the main event, which is Corey Sandhagen versus Rob Font, because Corey Sandhagen was from the United States and Rob Font is from Puerto Rico. So right now, for the next match, this is gonna be very interesting because they got Tatiana Suarez from the United States versus Jessica Andrade from Brazil. Because from Jessica Andrade, he just passed like the 10 years anniversary of her first fight at the UFC, which he was like a technical knockout loss to current Bellator women's featherweight champion Liz Carmouche. And Andrade's first challenge for the women's strawweight title in 2017, she just beat Rose Namajunas back in 2019. She lost the title at the first attempt defense against Sean Wheeler and eventually gave her a flyweight a shot, but she returned at 150 pounds in May, but she was knocked out by Sean Jimaev with a 2-fight skid that she will try to snap against Tatiana Suarez. But with Tatiana Suarez, which is very important, she was set to face Vina Jalwinda. But right now, he's got to be the biggest test of his career, which is going to take the former straight champion, Jessica Andrade. Because remember in Ferrari, Suarez returned from the layoff nearly 4 years to submit Montana de la Rosa by 100,000 bonus. A win over Andrade would like it ever a title conversation at 150 points. And that division, she's going to returning after beating De La Rosa at flyweight. So, I got to say, for any thoughts about Jessica Andrade versus Tatiana Suarez. So, this is going to be like really excited.
Yeah.
For me, sorry.
You go.
Like, I think for me, it's like, do you really want to fight another grappler? Because she fell short against Irene Blanchfield last time out, and you've got Tatiana Suarez on the other hand is a very strong wrestler, much probably stronger than Irene Blanchfield. I think probably Blanchfield's very good in a jiu-jitsu element of her game. Suarez is his brown belt, and I think she's capable of submitting Jessica Andrade. But one thing that I'm quite intrigued about is that I've realized earlier today is that I think before that Erin Blanchfield fight, Andrade did sign a 4-fight deal with the UFC, and the UFC are paying her more money. But this is also be her 4th fight this year. So after this fight, she's going to have one more fight left on that 4-fight contract. And I'm just wondering whether she's been churning up these quick turnarounds because perhaps she's realized maybe it wasn't a great deal. Maybe I could get more money elsewhere. Who knows?
Yeah, just to touch on what you just said there, like obviously doing tape earlier in the week, I just noticed that like I was going through some of our fights, and then like you said, fighting 4 times as well. It's a bit madness, and to think these quick turnarounds. Obviously, that Blanchfield submission loss, and then trying to get a quick turnaround against Yan Janan, that didn't go to plan. But yeah, you said it perfectly. It's basically striker versus grappler in my eyes, and Tatiana Suarez very, very strong in the wrestling game, and like you said there, JK, the submission game, she's got brown belt, but it's more the wrestling that's going to be key in this. And I think she's going to be too big and too strong for Entourage. Entourage may defend 1 or 2 takedowns, but we all know Tatiana Suarez is relentless with her takedown attempts. But if it goes into the later rounds, I have seen Suarez gas, and I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Nina Askarov.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
when she was Nina Askarov. Obviously she's Nina Nunes now. But in that third round, Tatiana Suarez did tire, and Nina was getting off some decent boxing in that fight. So again, it all depends how Entourage can survive, and if she does, it could pay dividends, because we've all seen before Jessica Entourage does have that power for 3 rounds. So
true. Yeah, completely with you on that one as well. I think if I was to predict it, I'd probably go with a Suarez decision.
Yeah.
Exactly. So after for the fight between Jessica Andrade and Tatiana Suarez, which is absolutely incredible. So right now, let's move out to the next fight, which we had to enjoy this.
Yes.
I mean, this is gonna completely right now. So this is gonna be like from the preliminaries, and we're gonna see the watch for the UFC debut of Denis Bushka, because he took like his featherweight against Sean Woodson for the record of 9-1-1, which is 9 wins, 1 lose. And of course, in just 5 days' notice, a short notice opponent for Woodson, Mayron Santos, he couldn't make it a trade to the issues. And Bazooka just lost a 2020 shot at UFC through Dennis White's Contender Series. He won the second try in 2022, but now it's being called to say Woodson fight, because he has 7 straight wins and all the heels were the first Dana White Contender Series loss. And he's gonna fight against Sean Woodson, which he had a very important. So I mean that Dennis Butcher, he's making like this debut, and his stance is very switch. His stance very switch. And Sean Woodson is R2, and Dennis Butcher he has 25, and Sean Woodson 31. I mean that this could be like a really exciting, because of first we get a seed of the UFC debut of Denis Bushka, and of course versus Sean Woodson. So any thoughts about the UFC debut on the preliminaries between Denis Bushka versus Sean Woodson?
Yeah, so what I've seen of Sean Woodson, obviously his last outing was a draw, but just style of his fight is very long, very rangy for the division. And just to mention, like you said, it was stepping up on short notice. Sean Woodson, I think he had about 3 opponent changes leading up to this fight now. But yeah, just to touch on his fighting style a little bit, very long, very rangy, very dynamic in his striking. So it's going to be an interesting fight. I can't wait to sort of when we watch the fights to see how that fight plans out. But as I said, Sean Woodson, very long, very rangy.
Yeah, Bazooka missed weight as well, didn't he?
Yes, yeah, that is very true.
20% of his purse. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not that plays into a factor in this fight. But again, like with these, he's a Serra Longo guy, is Bazooka, and you kind of almost want to root for those guys, because those lot over there are, coming pretty fast.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, it is. But also, I just wanted to tell everybody, because this is like the first time that we see like a fighter with Denis Bushka, which is totally insane. I was so completely out of control, because when you heard about Denis Bushka, because he will get the call. And this is gonna be like the last minute chance. You can make it or you can break it, because after he failed at the shot in 2020 with the UFC, and now they got another shot in 2022 with the Dana White Contender Series. So this is like the third chance, and that will say they cannot be lost, because he's riding fight and a solid 7-5 winning streak. Did it for the first Contender Series of Paris, and he fell shot to Milsic or the Shigana, and then this unanimous decision of the Contender Series back in 2020. But he was excited about it, because he was getting the opportunity to the big show. I mean, this is the big leagues. They also had the supposed to be, because before I had to go for the can cage, because those opponents that are to be planning, it was between Steve Garcia and Jesse Butler. That's supposed to face Woodson before with Robert. But right now, let's see how to go for the Dennis Bushuka, which is totally amazing. We just see a lot of things to do for the UFC debut. I mean, it's gonna be like it happened. It's gonna be you're gonna make it or you can break it. So this is gonna be like a finally like an opportunity to see that Dennis Bushuka gets finally this call after a failed opportunities. But right now, it seems like that opportunity, you're not gonna waste it. You're not gonna, because this is the opportunity, because this is the big leagues, because this is the UFC. Anything could happen like this one. And this is about the mixed martial arts. And that's part of a revolutionary everything, and this have been like a game changer since the first event in 1993, since the first one. And this is gonna be like 30 years of insane fights, and of course epic returns, and of course epic knockouts. I mean, this is gonna be like really amazing.
Yeah, just to touch on what you said there, like I said, being on a Dana White contender series and coming up short. So yeah, this is his opportunity, and like you said, he needs to take it.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. And right now, let's see if the fights right now, because we just see it like anything could happen. So right now they got Dustin Jacoby versus Kennedy Nzechukwu, which is from Nigeria. So right now, Justin Jacoby, he got 18 wins, seven draws, and 1 lose. And Kennedy Nzechukwu is for 12 wins, three draws, and 0 wins. So he stands for Dustin Jacoby. He's orthodox, and he stayed for the side with Kennedy. I mean, they have an opportunity because he has to go for a weight. Because I know this is something that we can talk about for that fight. I mean, Dustin Jacoby was so very unique, and I mean, he's not developed of the past. I mean, he's not gonna wait in front of the past, because he been seeing like a lot of things for the martial arts journey. He's seen like the bright spots, and he been seeing like the not so bright spots. But he's seen like the 7-5 UFC unbreak streak, and also has some follow with the 2-5 losing streak. So it might look surprisingly that the X factor is down for himself. Not about it. They have to compete, like they have to keep like the positive mindset. But he got the opportunity against Kennedy Nzechukwu at Nashville, because it's gonna be like a long year. Because since he had the last victory inside of the octagon, he's gonna say he's gonna he gotta fight, it goes hard, he got the hand rights, because he's not managing to dwell through the losses in the come and go, and he's teaching the shit about this weekend. So he's getting ready about it between Dustin Jacoby versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. So any thoughts about that?
Ooh, do you want me to start, or do you want to start, JK?
Go for it. This is a banger.
Yeah, this is it's be a great fight. I think it's going to be a stand-up war. Obviously, Justin Jacoby is a great kickboxer. I think Kennedy's coming into his own now. He's on a 3-fight win streak, and just how he's evolved in the sport of mixed martial arts is a joy to watch. Just how you go through a bit of a rough patch, and he's worked on his weaknesses, and now he's looking on top form now. Like I said, he's on a 3-fight win streak. His striking is just amazing now. So he's got great takedown defense. We saw that in his last outing. So again, I am really excited to see Kennedy in there. But Justin Jacoby is a very, very good striker in himself as well, though.
Kennedy's like a prime John Jones at the moment, man.
Yeah,
he's killing dudes. It's good to see. Yeah, he's very good in the clinch, and what I like about him is his elbows on the break. And for me, he's got such a size presence, and I think he's going to want to at least take Jacoby down, get that body lock, and just look to ground and pound him out, to be honest. If I had to give a prediction, either 2nd or 3rd round TKO to Nzechukwu. I mean, I like Jacoby. He's very talented. He's very good. He just kind of fell short against the harder hitter in Azmat Mirzakhanov last time out, and kind of faded a little bit. I mean, he was doing quite well in, I think it was the 2nd round. Like, he looked like he was starting to come into his own a little bit more, but he lost the round purely because Mirzakhanov just like cracked him and wobbled him.
Yes, I remember that fight now. Yes.
Yeah, it was just a shame to see him do that. But yeah, like I said, I think Kennedy's size is going to be too much of a problem for him.
I agree with that. So let's take it about for the next fight, because right now I had some issues with the microphone, but right now I had to go to see about it. So right now, let's see for the comments right now. So let's see what are the comments right now. Say, Gorpit is saying should be a decent boxing match. Go on to the Stockholm Finest, Nate Diaz. Sports and Wrestling Connection, Robert, how's it going? What's up, guys? And right now we got Readiness and Chasing to say go Nate Diaz. And right now, we just saw like anything can happen. So right now, there's still more interesting fights at the UFC on Nashville. So not only they got Corey Sandhagen versus Rob Font, Jessica Andrade versus Tatiana Suarez, Dustin Jacoby versus Kennedy Noshiguro. Also, we got the debut between Dennis Bushuka versus Sean Woodson at the preliminaries. And for those guys that are thinking about it, so right now we got Diego Lopez from Brazil versus Gavin Tucker from
potential fight of the night, this one.
Yeah,
I mean, I bigged up the last fight. Bigged up the last fight as being a good one, but this fight, it could steal the show, potentially. I mean, if not, it will be the main event. That'll be fight of the night. But the reason why this one's good is because Diego Lopez, in his last fight, he came in short notice against Movsar Evelev at UFC 288 and kind of stole the show almost, really, because nobody expected him to do so well against a ranked guy. Not only a ranked guy, but an undefeated guy as well. He had him in all kinds of trouble, armbar attempts, triangle attempts, knee bar attempts. And look, he definitely won me as a fan after seeing that. However, this fight here is a good fight for him to potentially get his first win in the UFC, because it's against a guy who's been out for some time. But Gavin Tucker's a dog, man. He was unfortunate when he got knocked out against Danny Gay. That was 22 seconds. That was like 2 years ago now. But before that, against Billy Q, he really stood toe to toe with Billy Q and really matched him on cardio. I like the way that he was able to mix in his strikes. He's very good in the pocket with his elbows. And he was able to land multiple takedowns on Billy Q, uses jiu-jitsu, past the guard, and just looked really good. After that, you knew that there was going to be a step up in competition. You knew he was going to get a ranked opponent. So I think a win against Lopez for him might put him back into the mix, or I could probably see him fighting maybe the loser of Damon Jackson and
Billy Q. Yeah.
Ooh, actually, no.
He's already fought Billy Q.
Yeah. If the two of them win, if Damon Jackson pulls it off against Billy Q, then maybe he'd fight Damon Jackson, because obviously Billy Q's now, I'd say, gone above Gavin Tucker in terms of competition.
Yeah, I agree.
Just purely because he's been out for some time.
Yeah, 100%. Like I literally can't say any more than what JK's just touched upon. Obviously, Diego Lopez stole the show when he fought Evelev, and just the relentless submission attempts. We were going mad during our watch along. Literally every submission attempt, it was like it was nailed in. But again, he's an exciting dude, and I cannot wait to watch him fight. So I hope, I'm rooting for him this weekend for sure.
Exactly. So I just said that about Diego Lopez because he had thought lost in the short notice debut fight against Movsar and Bob, because he showed up for the fans what it takes to hang there with the best of the UFC featherweight division. With 19 of his 20 wins coming inside for the distance, he's very dangerous in the coming back for Gavin Tucker. We're being brilliant to the weekend at Nashville. But Gavin Tucker, he's coming off long, very left of the layup of 29 mounds. There were some negative injuries after suffering a lockout loss to DNX back in March in 2021. But before that, because Tucker, he just won 3 straight, but now he's going to return to the fight at 37 years old, a hungry and up-and-coming prospect in Lopez that will looking to take him out. I mean, they will take it the spoil Lopez coming out for the party and give it the bad lesson that Saturday. And I mean, this could be the show stealer. because for that fight between Diego Lopez and Gabby Tucker, if it wasn't either of the main event, I mean, they could be possibly like a showstopper because both guys are really talented. They both have their ability. They have the both incredibly in the octagon. But this fight between Diego Lopez and Gavin Tucker is gonna be like a show stealer, and I guarantee you, this is gonna be like possibly like the fight of the night, and I'm guaranteed about it. So, right now, let's see, because after Diego Lopez versus Gavin Tucker, so right now we see like a very interesting fight. So we got Ignacio Bajamontes from Chile versus Louis Klein from Serbia. So right now it's gonna be like a very interesting fight on between Ignacio Bajamontes from Chile because he had 14 wins, 4 draws, and 0 losses. But Louis Klein, he has 19 wins, 4 draws, and 1 only lose. So any thoughts about Ignacio Bajamontes versus Ludwig Klein?
Oh man, this one's a good one as well.
Yes.
I mean, people shouldn't sleep on these fight nights. That's for sure, because we're in for a treat. That's for sure. If you do your research and you're looking into the fights, then you'll be able to realize why this card is such a banger. For me, Bahamondes, man, he's so crafty with his kicking game. He's going to keep you on the end of his range at all times, and you know that spinning wheel kick knockout of Matey Boy was on
Roberts.
Roberts, who's on the Ultimate Fighter, was so impressive. But for Ludovic Klein, though, he's fallen on hard times a little bit. He did draw against Jai Herbert, but I felt he should have lost that fight.
Yeah, I thought Jai Herbert won that fight. Yeah, but like just to touch on quickly what you're saying about obviously Bahamondes with his kicking game, and I think Klein likes to get in close, so I think that could be in his favor where he likes to get in close, and obviously Bahamondes with long and rangy. But it's going to be another fight, another great fight. Like you just said, that Tucker could be a great fight of the night. This one it's got all the flaws to be fight of the night as well, really, just because of the styles makes fights, as we say.
Yeah, and Bahamondes in his last one, defeating Troy Ogden by unanimous decision. He had Ogden frozen like Elsa, because Ogden just had a real hard time of trying to get into range with this guy. He's very talented. He's quite long for the division, and look, I'm excited to see what he can do against a strong Ludovic Klein.
Exactly. So I mean, some people they have it to go for it because right now some people they are slipping in the fights. But the most interesting about it, because they just had like a great knowledge about those fights, because in some fights they're very underrated, some fights are overrated, but we just see like the both athletes like the UFC Octagon. If we can see like there's a great connection about those fights, I will tell you, this is going to be like a series of bangers because they have Diego Lopez, they have some amazing fighters. I mean, it's going to be like a real amazing. So right now, for the UFC fight night between Sandhagen versus Font, because this weekend is very important because it's not only about the UFC fight night between Corey Sandhagen versus Pedro Font. So right now, we got something talking about it, because this is going to be like between Texas. So they got Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. On the boxing match is going to be on Saturday on Texas. Because if you guys remember about Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather back in 2017, but right now in 2023, they have the boxer Jake Paul, which is like a YouTuber, and versus Nate Diaz, which is very, very familiar with the MMA. And of course, if you guys remember the Diaz brothers from Stockton, California, I mean, you can never understand it about Nate Diaz and Nate Diaz, because both are really incredible at the octagon and they have a game changer. So this is like the first time we see that Nate Diaz at the boxing match, but I see it like a very, very important, because this is like one of those fights that completely changed it about the decade. So I mean, because for Nate Diaz, Nate Diaz is really, really excited. He was really can control the body because if you see like the highlights of Nate Diaz, he will knock him out. But in the case of Jake Paul, which is like a YouTuber, I mean that this completely is gonna blow my mind because he just jumped out as a YouTuber to become like a boxer, and I mean that it's gonna be like really, really, really weird because he has the cruiserweight, and of course he was so amazing because at the first one he was at the debut on February 2018 because I happened to go for like a two boxing combats. So they have versus Anson Keith versus Robinson. Also, they got versus Askren. So he had 4 victories by knockout, 2 victories by decision, and just had 1 loss by decision. So he was fighting 7 fights. And the last one he was lost against Tommy Fury. And the other fights he was winning against Tyron Woodley twice, Ben Askren, Nate Robinson, Edson Give, and of course Edson Silva. So I just wanted to tell you, any thoughts about the fight that completely changed for this weekend between Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz? I mean, gentlemen.
Do you want to go or shall I shoot?
Mate, you go ahead, man. You know,
yeah, just to touch on, obviously, I think Jake Paul's obviously going to have the power advantage in this, and obviously for Nate, obviously it's his first boxing match, and obviously having them boxing gloves on, I don't think his punches are going to have that much of an effect. Obviously, having the MMA gloves on, his boxing was very good because having them 9-ounce or 6-ounce gloves on in the UFC, a punch it could damage you if you know what I mean. Having them gloves on, but the boxing gloves is going to be a little bit different and difficult for him to sort of get going. But yeah, he could potentially win his way to a decision. I don't see Diaz knocking out Jake Paul, but I do see Jake Paul knocking out Diaz. But we all know Diaz does have a good chin, which could get him to maybe get a decision win, as I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I agree with that. Any thoughts about for the fight? I know that hasn't got up for anybody. Okay, so I know this we didn't like it because it's very weird to see it over Nate Diaz. Because if you saw look at the Nate Diaz career all over the octagon, if you see him at the Ultimate Fighter reality show, I mean he can knock you out because he had very experience at grappling and everything. And I was completely shocked between the whole career and the highlights between Nate Diaz and the octagon. I would say like the first time to go for the boxing match, including versus Jake Paul. I mean, this is really weird for me, but I would say like with another deja vu between the Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather back in 2017, but this time it's gonna be completely different because it's gonna happen in Texas. I mean, this is really exciting because I will give it like because Nate Diaz will be smoked out of the Jake Paul because I've been seeing for the highlights because he's a very excellent fighter, but he was so very competitive. And of course, I was watching it about the interview, and Nate Diaz, he was just walking it out because he has no time for like anything could happen. Because I will say this between Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz, this completely is gonna be like a weekend that everyone's can talk about it. Everyone's gonna talk about it because this fight is gonna be like trending, including some fights for the UFC. And do not sleep on Diego Lopez versus Strucker because this is gonna completely blow out to the mind. All right, so right now, let's see for the comments right now. Let's see. Dimenes, Salud, Rafael Panel, Elemento Peter to say, I want to smell Rose Namajuna's feet. I don't know what that means about it.
She's got a thing for Rose Namajunas, you know. All right, bro.
But yeah.
What I will say for my prediction for the Nate Diaz versus Jake Paul fight, I'm going Nate Diaz round 2 submission.
Yeah.
All right.
Jumping triangle choke.
I will say Nate Diaz will be knocked out against Jake Paul at round number 4 with a knockout. I will say Nate Diaz knockout for a round.
I'm going a draw and an absolute hug fest.
All right, so you say a draw. he will say it of the second round, and I say it of the third round.
My actual predictions, Nate Diaz by decision.
It's not okay. So right now, I'll see for the information about what's happening for the UFC. Then right now, the Jessica, they have to make it of how tomorrow could be official, and they'll say like the weight, the open weighted about it. And I was very interesting because not only they just talking about the most important things for the mixed martial arts, because you guys have a channel that's very growing, and of course I've been enjoying for the watch parties between the UFC Fight Night and of course of the UFC 291, which is totally amazing. And I remember I was over to the chat because there's whales, there's zebra, because there's a lot of person who came very interested about the MMA because it's very global, it's very international, and I mean this completely out of this mind. But I will say this one is gonna complete out of the bread because I know for a fact, because I've been watching for the mixed martial arts for a long time, but those guys like Ash and JK, they brought the best of the best, and of course they just brought a lot of reactions, a lot of great things, and of course a lot of great memories. And I mean, this is something that I just can't get enough of it. But I would say that for anything can happen like this one. So, all right. So there is very interesting about it between of one of these most incredible things. So I've been heard about Israel at Sandhagen, which is the style bender. This one, it's gonna be like a really excited. But I would say he's not very confirmed at the pay-per-view at the UFC 2913, but he wants to fight against the Barbarian party. So what's gonna be like the future of Israel as Zendaya as this style bender? Because if you look at the highlights and of course of the style of Israel and Zendaya, I mean, he's getting ready for the brand new generation of the UFC. Because over that decade, we just see like a real talents between Jorge Masvidal, which is he retired, Amanda Nunes, also they got Israel Zendaya, Justin Gage, Dustin Poirier, because we got talking about for the MBF title, which is the baddest MF ever. Because you guys remember about Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal for the BMF title? That was so epic. But right now they got a new champion, which is Justin Gage. So I know this is gonna be like for the last week. So any thoughts about the BMF title and of course for the future of Israel Zendaya, which is the style bender? It's gonna be like a game changer for the UFC for the decade.
Well, for Adesanya, originally I was set on him potentially fighting Yuri for the vacant light heavyweight title because Dricus is injured and Strickland came out and basically said he wasn't fighting Izzy for whatever reason, that they weren't going to do that fight. But recent news come in from Eric Nixick, Strickland's coach. He basically said that Sean Strickland has applied for a visa to travel to Sydney to fight Adesanya. So I'd imagine once that visa comes through and it's all good to go and that they realize that Sean Strickland isn't quite a complete maniac and hasn't murdered anyone, then I think that's going to be the fight that gets made.
Yeah, I think that matchup there, a lot of people may not agree with it in the rankings wise, but obviously Israel's beaten the who's who in his division and he's a new challenge. Obviously, Duplessis was that new challenge, but like you said, he got an injury, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
So obviously can't fight there, but I think this is kind of things happen for a reason. And Sean Strickland, let's not forget, he's definitely, if he does take this fight, the build up to this fight is going to be madness. And again, like I said, things happen for a reason. The build up for that fight is going to be amazing, and it could be good for the UFC that Duplessis did get injured.
Yeah, and as for the BMF belt, to be honest, I don't know if it's going to get used again. I mean, it might. There was some talks of well, Conor wants to get himself in there, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I can see happening? I think the belt is just going to be a gimmick. It's not going to be something that you fight and defend necessarily. I think it's just going to be a main event filler. I think they'll move
1,000%,
that belt on. To be honest, if I had to give a prediction, I think we'll see Conor versus Nate in the UFC, complete the trilogy for the BMF belt.
Yeah, I reckon that could be a potential possibility later on down the line. I think it's a bit of a gimmick, like you said, because they were meant to have Stipe Miocic versus John Jones. Obviously, that was talked about months ago. That was meant to headline this card, but JK spot on with. I think they just used that as a gimmick to headline it because they didn't have no other title fight, did they? So you put the BMF title on the line for that, it sells, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, McGregor versus Diaz doesn't necessarily need a belt, but if they've got this BMF belt at their disposal to do whatever they want, why would you not put that on the line? I think it just adds to the fire almost.
Exactly, I agree. And of course, one last thing before we get to wrapping out, because I just saw for like in the news, because I just saw between Paulo Costa, he doesn't see like any chance to beat up between Camus and Chiwet at the UFC 294, because Paulo Costa, he has a very full confidence about this matchup between Kazma Chibai, which is on Abu Dhabi. And the Brazilian king was originally supposed to have to go to the fight that past weekend of the UFC 219 against Icaro Aldo, but it kind of like a change of plans that occurred for the just a matter of weeks. But they have a plan between Costa versus Chimao, had the sign left for the not for since August and September 2022. But ahead of the Chimao last appearance at the UFC 279, that dominated first round with the choke of DRs over Kevin Holland. And since then, the two gave with each other, and now it's said about the difference about the outcome, because Costa, he gets the opportunity to welcome Chibai with what expected to be like the permanent stay at middleweight after the superstar smashing machine has bounced between the division of the welter career. But he doesn't see like the winning that fight. And of course, he thinks it's going to be like going for the title shot. So any thoughts about it going to happen between Paulo Costa versus Kazma Chibai at the UFC 294? I mean, it's going to be like ahead of time.
I think I can see Chimaev potentially ragdolling him and maybe submitting him. I mean, Costa's a big boy. Let's not forget that. He's quite a thick boy. So I don't know. I can see Chimaev submission, personally. That's my early prediction. That's without looking at it too much.
Yeah, let's not forget, obviously, Chimaev. I don't know if you've seen any videos or pictures of him. He's looking like a very big guy now himself. He's putting a lot of muscle mass on, and I can just see it. Like, we've not really seen Costa off of his back, really, because obviously he's no one's really trying to take him down, and I think we're going to kind of see Li Jingliang like that style. He's that style of fighter, like Costa, more of a stand-up guy, and we all saw what Chimaev did to him. So I think that's going to sort of be the fight. It's going to be like that. So he's going to take him down and just submit him, I think.
Yeah, I think rear naked choke. I think he takes Costa's back, puts him out.
It is.
Right.
So I just wanted to say thank you guys for joining us at the special event, a special preview between the UFC Fight Night and, of course, the Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. I will say this because I remember the first time that I was watching one of your live streams, that was completely blew my mind between Sai, JK, Ash. I mean, those guys are really incredible, providing information, and of course those watch parties at the UFC. And I just wanted to say that a shout out to my traditional persons right now, which is Tudo, Wills, and of course the big brother Lou, because it's so amazing, providing not only the football with the Giants, but also with the MMA fights, the boxing match with letter to the face. I guarantee you, because you gotta make sure to subscribe not only to Against the Fence, which is the independent, the best MMA channel in the whole world, YouTube, but also you can subscribe.
You know where it's at.
El Capitán Rafucho on YouTube. And of course, the Big Brother Lou with a letter to the face. So I just wanted to say, any last thoughts before we wrap things out? So any last thoughts?
All I can say is join us this weekend for the UFC Fight Night, Sandhagen versus Font. Watch along. It's going to be an absolute blast from start to finish. We can announce that we will be having a guest on the panel, as always. We're going to be catching up with Vince Morales, who's coming off of a win as well. It's not two straight wins. So that's your reason to join in. The link is in the comment section there. So pick it up, subscribe, and we'll see you this weekend.
Yes, just to touch on just a little bit, as JK was saying, thank you for having us on.
Yeah, thank
you. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for all your continued support. Obviously, you mentioned in Tuto and Wales. You guys are amazing, and just thank you for all your support. And like JK said, don't watch alone, watch along.
Yeah, love it, Raf. Thank you.
All right, so what Min says, this has been an amazing special event, a preview between the UFC Fight Night and Jake Paul, Nate Diaz. So right now, I'm Rafael Chacín, as known as El Capitán Rafucho. These are my special guests, JK and Ash from Against the Fence. And of course, I will see you there next time for another special preview at the same time, at the same hour. And don't forget to subscribe to Rafael Chacín, as known as El Capitán Rafucho on YouTube. And of course, Against the Fence on YouTube. And you can follow him on Twitter, on Instagram. So what that means says, let's go. Because Saturday is for the boys. And I will see you there next time. Peace out.
Let's go, y'all.